All right, howdy. Wanted to make a quick video comparing two fairly entry-level rowing machines for home use that I've had some experience with now, and give some tips on how to make them work for you, or in what circumstances you should consider them. So the first one I'll talk about quick is the one I started with, which is this Sunny SF-RW1205 model. It's less than $100. I think I paid about $80 on Amazon. Definitely an entry-level rowing machine with a lot of limitations, but the obvious advantage is that it's very small, compact, light, easy to move around. And for someone who's just kind of starting out, hasn't rowed really before, isn't sure you're going to stick with it, I think it's a decent way to start. I don't really regret the decision. I got it a year ago. I've used it fairly consistently for the last year, enough to kind of convince myself that yes, this is a good workout for me, and it's worth investing in something a little better. And the main reasons that I wanted something better are the resistance mechanism of this is based on this hydraulic piston, which provides the resistance, and there's some adjustment on there. You can make it pretty high resistance if you crank it up. But the problem is, as you use it, the oil heats up and gets more or less viscous, and as that happens, the resistance reduces. So this is really only good for 10 to 15 minutes of workout before the resistance really goes down and that piston becomes like extremely hot, too hot to touch. And I haven't had any leakage issues. Some people have complained about that, but that is the main limitation, is just the fact that you really can't use this for more than 10 or 15 minutes. But you can get a decent little workout in that time. Obviously, the control panel is extremely basic. It'll tell you how long you've been working out and how many rows you've done, but so enough to kind of keep track of your time and stuff, but not anything fancy by any means. And the other major limitation is that it is fairly small. So tall people are going to not be able to use this. This rail is pretty short. I'm 5'8", and it's kind of the perfect size for me. But certainly if you're much taller than that, you're probably not going to be able to use this. And the other issue, which may be more of an issue for people who are more serious about rowing or have rowed for real, is the range of motion is not natural. So obviously you have this kind of fixed arc, which is going to be your rowing motion. And it's fine, it's comfortable enough, but it's not the same as a real rowing motion. So if that's what you're used to, you're going to find this maybe unsatisfactory. But again, you can definitely get a decent little workout on this thing. And the portability factor is nice because you can just grab this, take it to the living room, do some rowing while you watch a show, put it back. And so the price and size and everything of it is a really nice advantage. So not bad. I didn't regret my decision to buy it as my first one, just to kind of confirm that that rowing is a good fit for me. But probably not something you're going to keep very long if you get serious about it. So the next rowing machine here in the frame is the ProForm 750R. I picked this one up on Cyber Monday Black Friday deal from Walmart for $400. I think it's normally about $600. There's also a similar model that Costco sells, which, as I understand it, the main difference is that this control panel on the Costco one doesn't have this this deal for holding a tablet, which is kind of handy actually. I used to like to watch Netflix while I row. So that was actually a pretty nice feature for me. It only came with 30 days of an iFit membership, which I don't really expect to use. Like I said, I like to watch Netflix while I row. I don't really need some fitness class. And so the basic sort of controls and metrics that the module provides without the iFit membership is good enough for me. But I think the Costco one might come with like a year of iFit. So if that's something you're interested in, that might be the better deal. But anyway, the way this one works is it uses magnetic resistance. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. But I want to just kind of address the overall benefits of this one compared to the other. There's better reviews of this online than I'm going to be able to provide. I like Training Tall's videos, and he has a review of this one. He wasn't super happy with it, and he points out a couple major weaknesses, which I'll talk about in a second. But he did like the general positioning, and he pointed out that the motion is quite natural and I guess correct from a someone who really knows what they're doing. I will say for me, this is plenty long, but if you're a tall person, it's nice that this is longer. Definitely you shouldn't have any issues with going off the edge or hitting the edge of the rail like you would on the Sunny over here. So it's a much more serious, much more robust rowing machine, obviously. And the magnetic resistance isn't going to heat up or anything as you go, so you can row as long as you want on this thing without any of the issues that the other one has. So in many ways, it's a much better device. It also folds, which is nice. It really only takes a few seconds to get it into this folded position. Really, the only thing you have to kind of be aware of is as you rock it back, it's going to take up more space against the wall. So you have to kind of roll it back away from the wall if you have it against a wall like I did earlier. Otherwise, this monitor thing is going to hit the wall. Now you can adjust the monitor, bring it forward, which if you were going to like store it for a longer period of time would be worth doing. But if you're going to be kind of folding it up every time every day in between uses, you're not going to want to mess around with that arm every time. So what I did is I just rolled it forward a couple feet, maybe 3 feet, and that was enough to give me clearance. And then I just kind of lifted up at this pivot point. It's got these handles here and here to help you fold it. It is pretty heavy, so just keep that in mind. And this seat is going to slide to the bottom immediately, so you might want to just be careful and secure that. But given the fact that this is meant to be a workout machine, and the fact that it takes a little effort to fold it up is not a big deal. And as you can see, even without the terminal arm or the monitor arm thing adjusted, it collapses pretty well, and at least in my situation, ends up not taking up too much space. So I think it's a pretty good solution for those with limited space. So all in all, a pretty good option. The other thing I'll point out is both of these resistance mechanisms are very quiet, which is not the case for the air resistance-based ones like the Concept 2, which everyone says is the best rowing experience, but really not a good option for me because it's so loud, and my daughter sleeps in the room across the hall. I don't want this thing to be loud. So quietness was very important. And even a water rower, which has a better sound and isn't as loud as the air resistance types, I thought was going to be too loud for me. So I was kind of limited to the magnetic resistances. And again, because I'm not like a real, I don't have real rowing experience, the more realistic feel of the water and air-based rowers was not a major factor for me. And I feel like this feels really nice. So now I'll talk about kind of the experience of rowing with this coming from this other one. So the range of motion, or the motion with the strap and the rowing kind of technique that you can use with this is obviously much, much better. You can do the proper motions and everything, which you're not able to do on the other one because of the fixed arc that it forces you to use as part of your row motion. So it's much nicer from that standpoint. This movement is much smoother. I found it just to be a much less restrictive, I guess, experience when rowing. And so I thought just from right off the bat, it felt much nicer and much smoother and everything. I did not have any of the issues that the Training Tall reviewer mentioned with the strap going slack on my recovery stroke, but that's probably because I'm not, a super vigorous rower. Like I'm going at a slower pace than he was, and I think unless you're just really, really pushing hard on this thing, in which case maybe this isn't the best choice for you, I don't think that will be an issue for you. I really didn't find that a problem at all. The other thing that he pointed out, which I did struggle with, is that the maximum resistance out of the box of this thing is quite weak. And I don't know if that's this model or this particular unit had some problem, but I found max resistance of 24 to be quite weak compared to where I was starting on this one. Now, like I said, this one gets weaker as you go. So by the end of my rowing session on this one, it was probably no stronger than this one, if not weaker. But on 24, it was just like not a struggle at all. And I'm not like a super fit rower. So that right off the bat was a major disappointment, and I considered returning it immediately because of that. But I decided, because of how heavy this thing is, how much of a pain it would be to pack it back up, and the fact that I like it otherwise, I figured I would open it up and see if I could alter the resistance. Because the way these magnetic resistance machines work is they just have some magnets kind of floating next to a spinning aluminum disc, which is what you're spinning as you do your row motion, and that those magnets provide the resistance. And by just moving them more or less, to overlap more or less with that spinning disc, you can alter the amount of resistance that they provide. And so I thought maybe there was some issue with the way that it was calibrated, or it wasn't, on full resistance. It wasn't coming as far as it could. So anyway, what I did is I just unscrewed all of the screws around this plastic cover here on both sides, and they were just Phillips screws. I didn't have to break any seals or anything that would void the warranty, as far as I can tell. Came off quite easily, and I'll show in the next video kind of what I found under there and what I ended up doing to increase the resistance. All of the resistance from the magnets are happening right here. So you've got two magnets on either side of this little arm, and there's a servo motor or something, stepper motor or something in there that adjusts this arm depending on the setting on the control panel. And at setting 1, or the default setting, it looks like this. Okay, so now I'm going to hit the 24, and if we come around here, we can see that the magnet is now pretty much overlapping with this plate. So I might try to take this arm off, pry off that magnet, which is just glued on from what I can tell, and reattach it with some spacer or something in between. Alright, well, I took a slightly different approach and made a mistake along the way, but basically I found some decently strong magnets, nothing like the ones that came with it, but still, these are like magnets for mounting or sticking knives or something up against them. And I just kind of found some random stuff I had lying around and removed as many as I could, and I basically just slapped them onto this metal. So the nice thing is that until you get to a certain distance, these magnets attract to the steel more than the magnet across. I don't really understand magnetism fully, but as to why the forces act the way they do, but basically, as long as these don't get too close to one another, they stick to these metal plates rather than coming together. So these aren't even glued on. I just found basically as many magnets as I could and just kind of stacked them on either side of this thing. So my suggestion would be, don't bother with these two. My idea of moving this one closer to this one wasn't really going to work because it doesn't have to come too far before it sticks onto here, and it's extremely hard to get off. So I would leave these two alone like they came in the factory, and I would either buy or find some pretty strong magnets. Obviously, if you could find something like this, that would be amazing. But I found that even these have a noticeable difference, make a noticeable difference on the resistance when I put it on the thing. And what's nice is because these don't have to be glued or anything, you can kind of experiment, stack more magnets. But as you can see, this one was kind of nice in that it came with this sort of plastic tray that held the magnets a little further off from the metal than the other one, which was kind of my goal all along. So that worked out pretty well. And then these are just some others that I stacked up. Obviously not ideal that you have to do that with this thing, and maybe you'll find that the max resistance on your model is higher, or you're happy with it, in which case you don't have to do anything. But I did figure it would be worth pointing out that while I agree that the resistance out of the box is really too weak, there's a relatively easy way to correct that. And if you like the rower otherwise, and the price point matches your expectations or needs, my experience so far is that this is a nice little rower. And again, if you're not into the iFit thing, which I don't really think I would be, it's a nice option that doesn't require you to kind of pay a monthly fee. And so compared to some of the other options that are much more built around subscriptions, like maybe the Hydro, I feel like this is a pretty good option for kind of the $400 to $600 price point. And the one thing I will point out just on that topic of iFit, which is not well advertised. In fact, they kind of lie to you when you open the box and they say you have to register with iFit in order to even use the thing. That's not true, as other people online have pointed out. All you have to do is hold down this iFit button for up to like 30 seconds, and then that'll unlock the panel, and you can just use it without ever giving iFit any of your information if that's what you want. So yeah, they should make that clearer in the documentation, but it is quite easy. And once you do that once, then you don't have to do it again. So I hope that was helpful, and thanks for watching.